Hey guys, welcome back. This is Andy from Noctie, and today we're gonna go through the weekly scenario for week 20 of 2025. So let's take a look at this week's position. So what we have here is an endgame with material imbalance. So we have a queen against the opponent's knight and rook. And if you count the pawns, we see that it's equal, 4 pawns against 4. So material-wise, white is clearly ahead, because the queen is worth 9 points, and the rook and knight together are worth 8 points. Furthermore, white has this passed b pawn, which is an important asset. In these types of endgames, the queen becomes even more powerful if we can play on both sides of the board. So here the idea is of course to support the b pawn with our queen and try to move it ahead as far as possible and potentially be able to promote it. On the other hand, we can also keep an eye out on the king side and start moving our king side pawns, potentially create some weaknesses on black's king side. So that's the general idea, and let's take a look at concrete candidate moves. So first of all, we can see if we can push the b pawn. So here we can actually move ahead and push the b pawn 1 square. And then we want to move in with our queen, for example to c5 or potentially to c3, all with the aim of protecting the b pawn and supporting it to be able to push forwards. And depending on how black reacts, we can then choose to push our h pawn. So that's the general idea. And now let's play against Noctie. So a quick reminder, nowadays we have the ability to change Noctie's strength dynamically with this toggle. You can use this both when you're playing the scenario to alter Noctie's strength between moves, that is possible, but more importantly to both lower and higher the difficulty if you either feel that it's too difficult or if you want an extra challenge. A short note here, don't feel disencouraged if you find the weekly scenarios very difficult. We have designed these positions so that you can play them out against Noctie at any given level and still be able to challenge yourselves and improve. So if you're a beginner player, then perhaps they'll be extra challenging. Feel free to lower the difficulty here and make it suitable at your level. And on the other hand, if you already are an expert player and find these scenarios too easy, you can crank the difficulty all the way up to Queen 4, for example, which will correspond to a Super GM level of 2900. So in this way, players at all levels can benefit from practicing the weekly scenario. And also, we can switch it up and play from the other side. This position is actually very suitable from practicing from both sides. So if we reverse the colors here, we can try to instead hold this position and attempt to fight on for as long as possible. Since white is objectively better here, we can choose to lower Noctie's difficulty to give us a better chance. But no matter what, it's still a good way to practicing these positions. So now it's time to play against Noctie. And here I'm gonna actually lower the difficulty because the difficulty is matched at your level. So we put a minimum level that Noctie is playing at, and if you are ranked above that, then Noctie will be playing at your level. So here I'm currently at Rook 2, so Noctie will also be playing at Rook 2. Before filming this version, I have actually tried it out a few times and it was really difficult to win this. So let's do Bishop 4. So at Rook 2, Noctie was playing at a 1900 level, and now Bishop 4, that is approximately 1700. So let's go ahead and see if we can manage to win this. As we discussed, we're going to go ahead with b5. Okay, Noctie plays knight e6, a very logical move. From here, the knight is controlling many key squares. Here, I'm going to play queen e4, centralizing the queen. So this gives the queen more opportunities and more squares to go to. That is usually good. Okay, Noctie moves up with the king, and here we can actually grab the h7 pawn. So let's just pause for a moment and see if Noctie has any trick. So if we take, then Noctie does not have g6 idea because the g pawn will be pinned. And also our b pawn is not under attack. So I think we can just grab the h pawn. Let's do that. Alright, very good. Let's see what Noctie does. Perhaps attacking a b pawn, yep. And here I'm thinking of dropping our queen back to b1. It looks a bit strange with our queen off the board, but the important thing there is that when we have the queen behind a pawn, we can support it and protect it. So we can actually push it forwards to b6 and it will still be protected. The idea is to of course go to queen d3, but then on that move black would have knight d4, attacking the pawn twice, and then it will actually be difficult to defend it. So I think queen b1 is a strong move. Nice. That was really good to see. Let's see what Noctie does. So now if Noctie attacks us, we can simply push forwards. And then we'll be a pawn up. Okay, Noctie does not attack our pawn. Instead, she's bringing in the king and then perhaps trying to grab our pawn. So what can we do here? Is it a good idea to give a check? If we give a check, Noctie will probably go to d7 and then perhaps go here. I'm not sure. But I think it's good to give a check because then our queen is getting more active. Let's do that. Okay, king d7. And here our pawn is safe. And if Noctie attacks it twice with, for example, knight d4, then we can push it forwards to b6. And from there it will be safe once again. Here we must try to create another asset or another weakness in Black's camp. And one idea here is that we see that we have a pawn majority here on the edge. We have the g and h pawn against the g pawn here. So we can use these two to try to create a pass pawn on the h file. So I'm going to go ahead and play h4. Okay, Noctie now attacks our pawn twice, so we must act. The thing is, we can't really defend it. We have to move it if we want to keep it, or we can try to create a counter threat. So here we have queen f8, and the idea is to attack the g7 pawn. And Black cannot really move it because then we'll take f6. So if we go queen f8, then Black has to go knight e6 back to defend it. But then we'll give a check. So I think, yeah, that should work. Let's do that. Very nice. So here we see how strong the queen is, being able to infiltrate Black's position, both on the queen side and on the king side. Alright. Knight e8. Yeah, I missed that move. But I think our idea still works. We can give a check here if we want. Then it's going to be difficult for Black to defend both the knight and the rook. So let's do that. So here we actually are winning material because White's king cannot move and at the same time defend both the rook and the knight. And now we can simply grab the rook. Whew. So finally we can breathe out. So we have a clearly winning position. We can, we can do many things here. We can take the g-pawn and just get ourselves another queen and win this. So let's go ahead with that. Okay, then let's give a check here. Noctie must grab our pawn and then we go here. Yeah, that's nice checkmate actually. Alright, so this was it, and as I mentioned, I actually lower the difficulty, so don't feel ashamed at all if you have to do that to be able to solve this, because remember, Noctie is your virtual AI chess coach and your sparring partner that plays at your level. So no matter if you're a beginner, just starting out with chess, or if you're already a skilled tournament player, Noctie can be there and spar against you at your level. And that's the most important thing. Because when you can play against someone similar to your strength, that will be the most helpful for your improvement. So now that I've won this at bishop 4, now it's a good idea, for example, to restart the position just to demonstrate and then play at the initial level rook 2 and see if I can win. And then you can just gradually increase the difficulty and see how far you can push yourselves. Alright, so that was this week's scenario. It was an interesting endgame where we had a queen against a rook and a knight for the opponent. Practicing material imbalances is actually a great way for improving at chess, because you're forced to put many concepts into action. And on Noctie, we have created a collection with endgame studies, including some exciting material imbalances. So I'll put the link down in the description. Feel free to check that out if you want to practice more. Just a quick reminder, you can find all the old weekly scenarios under themes in Noctie. So feel free to check them out if you want to revisit any of these scenarios. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.